Welcome back, Chiefs fans. It's another day. It is Wednesday, so that means Matt Derrick is here from ChiefsDigest.com. He's going to get us up to date on the roster moves, what they mean. There is a couple things that are significant in there. We're going to take a look at what's coming here as they try to wrap up the season, these next 6 games. A lot against the AFC West, and particularly, we'll take a look at those Denver Broncos. Welcome to Locked On Chiefs.
It's the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Mr. Matt Derrick is back on the Chiefs beat. How are you, pal?
I am ready and refreshed and raring to go, Ryan. 5 weeks, all we needed to get ready for the last 6 games, right?
Your turkey day, has you rejuvenated at this point?
Plenty of desserts, plenty of turkey. I am set and raring to go.
Okay, good, because there's plenty of work to be done. Evidently, you have to chase down all the news, and there was plenty of it today on Tuesday.
Yeah, just a handful of transactions today. So, right. Welcome back, Kyle Long. We never knew you, and now we get to know you a little bit.
At least for the next 10 minutes, we'll see what happens.
Exactly.
It's interesting to see that they literally waited to the last moment to get this done. I have to think that. At his age, with that tibial plateau fracture, that's a difficult thing to recover from. So let's take a breath here real quick on Kyle Long, because I know a lot of fans are ready to just throw him into the starting lineup, maybe even at tackle. The guy hasn't worked out with the team, and I don't know how long. Like he hasn't been at camp since I've been at camp. That says something.
Yeah, I mean, expectations, let's dial them back a little bit on Kyle Long, because you're absolutely right. I mean, he's been working on his own, certainly, a little bit and everything, but even with returning to practice, it's scout team stuff's all he's been doing the last couple of weeks, and then, going to a bye week, which doing nothing at all except working on his own. So yeah, back to football, but that doesn't mean he's ready to be stepping into the lineup anytime soon. He needs a little bit more time, and that doesn't even necessarily mean that the Chiefs are in a position and ready to do that. I mean, what position is he, ready for? Really, the only position that is in any discussion for the Chiefs' offensive line right now is the right tackle spot, and there are other options. Honestly, I mean, I think right now if the Chiefs had to go pick out a starter and Lucas Niang wasn't ready to go yet at right tackle, right now, I mean, I think it would still be Andrew Wiley. For all the talk about Kyle Long being an option at right tackle, remember, I mean, the man turns 33 years old on Sunday. That's part of what, takes a little bit longer with this injury. You're absolutely right. I mean, it's not, normally that's something to make maybe 8 to 10 weeks. And there was a lot of talk about how maybe Kyle Long's ready by the beginning of the season to at least get back on the field. But for the Chiefs all along, I mean, they thought mid-season replacement was much more likely for Kyle Long, and that's kind of where he is. I mean, maybe a week or two later than expected, but after the bye week has kind of ended up being a perfect time for them. But remember, man hasn't played right tackle in the NFL in 6 years.
Right.
So expectations that he's the answer to come in and play right tackle, I'd be really surprised, especially, the Chiefs are a team that doesn't like to put guys in positions where they're not ready. And I don't think there's any doubt whatsoever. Right now, Kyle Long, one, I don't think he's ready for the starting lineup. And if he were, it wouldn't be at right tackle.
I tend to agree with you. I think that's a longer term thing. If he had been in here in the season, maybe that was there. But certainly the guard spot, the interior three, that like the swing guy inside, I think has to be really the role that you're looking at least until the postseason.
Yeah, I mean, what they were really hoping for originally with Kyle Long has changed. I mean, when they signed him, it was certainly with the idea, hey, you know what? If LDT is not ready to go, this can be a guy that can plug in at right guard. And that's exactly where he started, the offseason workouts was at right guard with the number one offense. Mm-hmm. But now that Trey Smith has taken that position and made it his, that's not a need anymore. There's no other spot, as far as Kyle Long goes. But what Chiefs do want and do need is depth, because they, that was the number one goal for Brett Veach during this offseason, amongst anything else, was that he did not want to be where they were at in the Super Bowl last year as far as depth goes, So yeah, having Kyle Long, having somebody like him with his experience, that can be a depth piece in case they do get some injuries down the road. That is what Kyle Long's job is for. And that's what he's going to be making $1.5 million to do. And it's a great role for him. And honestly, I mean, it's a good deal whether you need him or not. That's an insurance policy that's absolutely worth buying.
I agree. And if they don't get some turnaround here, you have your number 1 right tackle out. You have your number 2 right tackle out. If anything happens to Andrew Weiler, that could be a break glass situation. Okay, that's there. But again, a couple of weeks with the practice squad. Now you're going to wrap with the offense probably. You get back on the active. If it comes down to a playoff run and you have more injuries or you have devastating injuries to more of those tackles, then we can talk about going over to right tackle and being a guy that fills in. And despite all of the offseason effort to rebuild this line, you might be back in the same situation.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and that's once again, I mean, that's exactly why, the Chiefs, like I said, this plan may not have been what they originally envisioned in March when they signed Kyle Long. But once the injury took place, this is exactly, what the Chiefs kind of envisioned, was that in the second half of the season, they might need him. And so even with the rehabilitation, the plan all along was never about, just getting Kyle Long to a point where he can step in, once injuries start hitting. I mean, the Chiefs had some injuries earlier on, and there was no pressure to rush Kyle Long back. But what they were just hoping for is you get to the second half of the season, that's when you really want to be able to have some depth. And so in that standpoint, his rehabilitation has worked out perfectly for them from that point. The backup plan for Kyle Long has been executed. Now you'll just see if you need him. I mean, if the only reason I think you're going to need Kyle Long is you get some more injuries. But he's a good guy to have around just in case.
He is. And there's a couple other moves. We're going to get to those as well as looking at what this next run is going to look like coming up next. It's that time of year again when all eyes turn to football and the NFL gets back on the gridiron. As always, BetOnline.ag is your number 1 place for college and pro games to get you into the action. Get all the updated odds, props, and contests, including the biggest online contest, $500,000 NFL mega contest, as well as the $200,000 NFL Survivor contest. They're both open now at BetOnline.ag. Head to the website, use your device, whatever it is, and you'll get a 100% welcome bonus. Take advantage of it and get in on the opening day super promo. $25 bet. Even if you lose, you get your money back. BetOnline is the fastest, easiest way to get all of your bets into the action, football and everything else. Use our promo code Locked On over at betonline.ag, your online sportsbook experts. So, Matt, it's not all Kyle Long's world. I understand that everybody's excited about him, but hey, there's other things going on. Marcus Kemp is back. A surprise for me, McKinnon going to IR on Tuesday. And even more of a surprise for me, the Colin Saunders, who I thought was working back, is now gone to IR. Did those catch you off guard? Do we have any details about any of it?
Yeah, not a lot of details. I mean, with McKinnon, remember, he suffered that hamstring injury on the first special team snap against Dallas. I mean, he played just the one play and then was out of there and was scheduled to get an MRI after that. Chiefs went dark last week, so, there wasn't anybody around to really tell us what happened there. And Andy Reid, once again, didn't, give us a lot of injuries. I'm sure he knew yesterday when he met with us what the plan was going to be for McKinnon. But it could also certainly will have been. I mean, that team, those guys were gone for 7 days. Mm-hmm. So sometimes guys can come back and injuries that can get worse. And certainly it could be a situation with Saunders because, he has been inactive for the last couple of games. But remember, he wasn't even on the injury report leading up to Dallas. So there were indications that maybe that knee was responding. This would be an indication to me that there's been a setback. Maybe he's just a little bit further away from being ready than what they thought. Put him on injured reserve now. I mean, it gives you, it at least starts that window that if you think he's going to be out for a few weeks, go ahead and start that window now. Bring him back when you need him. With McKinnon, this is an indication if the hamstring is going to require him to be on IR. I mean, maybe that does end up something being a little bit further down the road. We'll find out more from Andy Reid on Wednesday when he meets with us because those questions will absolutely come up.
You don't say. I think that it's unfortunate to see these happen now, but like you said, a little bit different to have a soft tissue, a hamstring that might keep you out a little bit longer. Saunders, I think, let's see what happens if that window, like you said, he was making progress. Let's see what happened there. Notable to me, no update that I've found anyway. Maybe you have some information that I don't have on Rashad Fenton. So we're just going to have to be watching the practice reports and see how he's responding.
Yeah, he was also supposed to get the MRI last week after the game, and once again, Andy kind of dodged our questions both last week and this week about how that was. But really, was notable about Fenton after that injury against Dallas was that he never went back to the locker room. He stayed on the field. They spent a lot of time looking at that leg, what had happened with him. And then he stayed on the sidelines. He had his helmet the entire time. Didn't look like there was any indication that he was getting ready to go back in the game, but there was no rush to get him, back into the locker room, which you would expect with a more severe injury. And and while Andy did not address injuries on Monday, I mean, I thought it was pretty important about what he did say about Fenton as far as what he likes about him and his playing style and what he brings to the team, because he certainly wasn't sounding like he was eulogizing a guy who wasn't going to be with his team for a while. So another guy that we'll find out about on Wednesday, but everything that we've at least seen and heard at this point would tell me to be optimistic about Fenton.
Yeah, I'm crossing my fingers as well. They're going to need him against the AFC West, and that run starts right now. It's the Broncos this week, followed by the Raiders, followed by the Chargers, and in particular, Mike Williams. We all know what he's been able to do against his team in years past. I think Fenton's going to be a key part of that. But when you take a look back, I was a little apprehensive about having so many. Not only do they have those three, but then they do end the season with Denver again. So 4 of the 6 interdivision games here down the stretch. I was a little concerned about it when the season started because I thought it was going to be a little bit closer. It's still pretty close, but this is an opportunity I see for this team to get on a roll, sustain what they've been building. And it may not be as smooth as we hope it is, but this right now is their opportunity in the next 3 games to take a stranglehold on this division. Do you think that they're prepared for that? Do you think that this came at the perfect time following the bye?
Yeah, I think they are prepared. I mean, and if you're going to go into a stretch like this, I mean, you want it to be against some divisional opponents that you know pretty well. I'd asked Andy on Monday about, what does the game getting flexed to Monday really mean for them? And one of those things is that it shortens that week before the Raiders game. So, some of it is that they've got to start doing their prep for the Raiders before you play the Broncos this weekend. Well, not only that, but then you've got the Chargers on Thursday night right after the Raiders. So you got to start doing your prep for the Chargers before you play the Raiders. It helps that these 3 games right out of the block are all against teams that they know. And that also, I certainly would expect the coaching staff to have even spent the bye week looking down the road at the Raiders and the Chargers and getting ready for those games ahead of time. So I think the fact that, you've got 3 games in short succession here right after the bye, the fact that they're all against AFC West teams, I think that the familiarity is good. But also, you're in a situation now where, good grief, these 3 games can easily just put away the AFC West. I mean, the Chiefs, you win these 3 games and the AFC West race is over. It's not going to really matter what happens the rest of the way. I mean, everybody else is going to be buried to the point where they're not coming back. I mean, even if the Chargers that they've lost to earlier, you'll now have a split with them if you win that game. So to me, yeah, I mean, this is a chance for the Chiefs to just absolutely close out the AFC West the way that they have done in recent years by just beating the opponents straight up. It doesn't have to worry about what else is happening on your schedule. Go 5-1 in the AFC West. You're going to win the division.
Yeah, and I think winning the division sets you up pretty well, especially when you look around the rest of the AFC. Just maintaining, I think, is an advantage right now. You saw the Ravens are the one team that has fewer losses than them at this point, but they seem like they want to give games away at every turn and just can't seem to get that done. But I think eventually those losses will come. I think the rest of them, the Chiefs sitting with 4 losses, if they can maintain this little run right here, it sets them up very well for not only being one of the 4 division winners that gets to host a game, but also keeps them right in the race for that first seed. At this point, do you think that we can project a little bit that they do have better than a 50-50 chance at that number 1 seed?
Oh, I'm definitely going to have to probably go on the south side of 50 on that one. I like their chances to catch a lot of the teams. I mean, a lot of teams unfortunately are coming back to them. Baltimore, I'm with you. I mean, I don't know how Baltimore's doing it at this point. Their net points and their net touchdowns are not good. I mean, they're more indicative of a team that's a lot more closer to 500 than they are. So I'm betting, especially with a couple of games that they have on their schedule, that the Ravens will come back to the pack a little bit. Team that worries me is the Patriots, because even though the Chiefs haven't played the Patriots, they are still buried in the tiebreaker against the Patriots. Patriots are 6-1 in the conference. Chiefs are 2-4. They're not catching them, which means that you've got to win 2 more games than the Patriots down the stretch. And I don't see how that happens. I mean, it could. I mean, it's certainly possible, but 50-50, no. I mean, I'm thinking probably south of 30% even that they catch the Patriots. Especially with the fact that even though the Patriots have to have a couple of games with the Bills on the, coming up and some other another tough game, I still think the schedule and the way that the Patriots are playing right now favors them. But Chiefs at Patriots for the AFC Championship game, would you take it?
Yeah, absolutely. Rookie quarterback, I don't care how good he's playing. Absolutely. It's not much of a question for me. I'm way more optimistic than you are about catching and surpassing them, to tell you the truth, because at the end of the day, all you got to do is win games. And I think that the way that this table is set up for them to eat right now till the end of the regular season, I feel like that's there for the taking. So we're going to get into the first step and how they do that in attacking the Denver Broncos coming up right after this. You got to love the holidays, all the food, the treats, and plenty of them. But you might want a yummy dessert that isn't so full of calories and sugar. It's a perfect time for a Built Bar. Built Bar is the new holiday dessert. They taste incredible. We've gone over them. We have all the new ones, blueberry muffin. You have the chunk cookie dough. You got to love that, as well as my favorite, coconut. You got to love the coconut brownie chunk. It is the best one out there. And feast or something delicious, and that's how you feel about these bars. You need to have one of those as well. Every single one is about 130 to 150 calories, only 4 grams of sugar, and plenty of protein, upwards of 15 grams per bar, versus a slice of pie that's over 300 calories. You got to get into this, and this is a just as good tasting and a better way to eat, especially around your holidays. Low calorie, low carb, low fat, and high protein, covered in 100% real chocolate. Built is the great option whenever you're hungry, whether it's Thanksgiving weekend or all the way through Christmas and even New Year's. They're all coming here right now, and it's time for a Built Bar or two. All the new surprises, all the new flavors that are always coming out every few days, it feels like. There's plenty to check out over at Built.com. If you use the code LOCKED15, you're going to end up getting 15% off of your next order. That's promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at Built.com. So you got to start somewhere, 1 foot forward, right? And it happens to be the Denver Broncos, whose offense is ghost-like, do we want to say? I mean... You can complain about not putting enough points against the Dallas Cowboys. Okay. You can complain about, yes, it was a schematic advantage that was handed to you against the Raiders. I do expect that to happen again, folks. I don't think anybody's changing spots over there in Las Vegas. But at the end of the day, you have to be able to put more points than the opponent. And I think that the offensive in disparity here is just too great for the Broncos to overcome in any reality.
Yeah, the Broncos are an interesting team. I mean, one, they got rid of arguably one of their best defensive players, and they've done nothing but win and get better since then, which makes no sense. I mean, when they gave up Von Miller in the trade to the Rams, I mean, it certainly seemed like at that point they were waving the white flag. And now they've done nothing but rattle off a few wins here, and now they're back in it. But you look at this team, I mean, and the only thing that really stands out to you is that they're third in the league in scoring defense. And other than that, all the rest of their numbers are not terribly impressive, even on the defensive side. Some of it's just that they've been very opportunistic. I mean, they've made the most, even last week, they made the most of some turnovers and some opportunities that they've got. But they're not necessarily tremendous at getting after the quarterback, winning the line of scrimmage. I love their secondary, I mean, they're deep at corner, they're deep at safety. You saw what they did to Dallas when Dallas was still full strength. I mean, that's, the Broncos beat them with coverage, and they can do that to the Chiefs too. But I think the Chiefs still have a schematic advantage against the Broncos. And then it comes down to, the Broncos offense and right now they are just the epitome of a 500 game management offense. I mean, they're not spectacular at any one thing, but they've got a quarterback who, can get rid of the ball quickly, protects the football, doesn't make a lot of mistakes or turnovers. They run the ball decently. I mean, not great, but decent. They've got some targets that, can be explosive at times, but they're not a team that's just going to hit the 75-yard bomb and beat you that way. They're going to beat you slowly, and they're going to do it by making sure that you don't get into the end zone. The Chiefs get a couple of big plays. If they can get some, turnovers on defense, I think that's all it's going to take to beat the Broncos, and I think they'll be able to get both of those.
Do you think that the Chiefs defense in particular can continue down the path of getting better, being more explosive, being more dominant against this particular offensive group for the Denver team?
I mean, I think this should be a good matchup for the Chiefs. I mean, once again, they haven't, been facing some teams at their best the last few weeks. I mean, they've been getting fortunate with some teams not being at full strength, but the Broncos are an offense that even they're at full strength, the Chiefs should be able to handle them. I mean, this isn't a Broncos offense that should come out and be able to put 35 points on the Chiefs. This is, a more middle of the pack offense. It's not explosive. So to me, yeah, if this defense has some problems against the Broncos, that's going to be indicative of, to me, that there are some signs that there's still some things wrong. But I think this is going to be a good matchup for them. It's been a good matchup now for them for 6 years. So until things change, I'm still going to think that the Chiefs are going to be able to handle this. And certainly what the Broncos look like on paper, I think that's a favorable matchup for the Chiefs, even defensively.
I have to think so too. If there's one weapon on the Denver roster that you are concerned about, just in terms of matchup or just having a knack against this particular defense in this group, who would you be concerned with?
I mean, I worry about all of their size and speed a little bit, but me, I'm a Mizzou guy. So if Albert O gets involved in this thing, gets a red zones touchdown, I'm going to be really problematic. But to me, it's going to rest on Bridgewater. I mean, that's just going to be it to me. I mean, it's going to be whether or not he makes any mistakes. I mean, if he has a solid game, and let's face it, I mean, Teddy Bridgewater can still do it. I mean, he can go out there and he can throw for 300 yards. It's not going to be, beating you with his athleticism or anything like that they may have done when he was younger and before the injuries hit. But hey, if he's going to, complete 75% of his passes, take advantage of the run game and use it effectively, mix things up and protect the football, that's how the Broncos are going to beat you. I mean, to me, it's not going to be with, 75-yard bombs to anybody and getting the receivers involved. I mean, it's just going to be Teddy Bridgewater doing what he does best, which is at this point, it's just manage the game effectively.
Man, I feel like he's got a little extra support with Javonte Williams. I think he's a good runner, but if you see what they've done recently, including Ezekiel Elliott, like I feel the Chiefs can take him away. I feel like they can weather the threat of Judy, and I don't think Sutton's near 100% at this point, so he doesn't scare me as much as he would in a normal season. So I'm confident there in exploiting the Denver defense. Like you said, clearly their strength, pass rush isn't what it used to be, but Bradley Chubb did return last week. I thought he put in a decent effort. The number one guy for me is to know where Justin Simmons is on the field at all times and adjust accordingly. I think that's what they have to do, because I think they are going to see the too high looks. They're going to see the cloud sixes and the coverages that try to take away some of those deeper routes.
Yeah. I mean, to your point, I mean, on the offensive side first, remember they've beat the Chargers last week, 28-13, I think it was. And, Javonte Williams was the leading receiver with 57 yards. Outside Melvin Gordon had 83 yards rushing. They didn't have anybody else with more than 57 yards. Yeah. So it really is. I mean, it's not any one player in particular that's going to get you, but I'm defensively, I'm absolutely with you. I mean, Justin Simmons and Patrick Surtain, I mean, those are the two guys that you've got to worry about. And really going to be interested to see, how Surtain gets used in this game, where he lines up. Remember, like I said, I mean, Dallas, that game that the Broncos won, they won it with coverage. They won it by smothering the Dallas receivers. They can do that. I mean, they got the ability to smother Kelsey and Hill. Mm-hmm. Question is if they can. And if they do, other guys are going to have to step up, because if what the Broncos have done effectively is any indication, they're going to be double covering Tyreek and double covering Travis Kelsey, and everybody else is going to be in single coverage. And the other guys are going to have to step and make plays.
All right, then that brings me to this. If you have to pick one guy that you would think is either hitting his stride or it's far enough into the season that everything's coming together, who is that third guy that steps up in the pass game?
The smart money for me right now would be Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I mean, this is a guy, I think this game is absolutely made for him to finally have an impact, especially in the passing game. I mean, I think there's going to be opportunities for Mahomes to dump the football off. And I think there's going to be, a lot of attention paid to guys downfield. And there's going to be room to run underneath. And I think there's going to be opportunities for Edwards-Helaire to get the football. The sleeper picks, to me, is Byron Pringle. I mean, that's the guy of late that has really needed to step up. And if the other guys are going to get attention and you're counting on one of the receivers to be the guy that comes in and maybe surprises you with 70 yards and a touchdown, the only one at this point that show me he can do it is Byron Pringle.
Fair enough. I think that's perfectly legitimate. I hope they sprinkle in a few other guys. I'd like to see I don't care who it is, someone step up and grab it. At this point,
Would be a perfect opportunity for Josh Gordon to do that.
Right. I'd like to see Noah Gray
would be the time
statement as well. Any of the above. Somebody say I'm the number 3 option. We'll get to that, and we'll be with Matt post game. I hope you guys are ready for this. It will be a late one following that contest. But Matt, thanks for giving us your insight today and getting us back up to speed on where this team's at.
Pleasure as always, Ryan. Take care, my friend. Take care, everybody.
Folks, have a great day. We will talk to you tomorrow with a little bit of inside intel, and we'll be ready to preview this game on Friday. Have a great one. We'll talk to you then.